Thank you for tuning in to the Minisode of the Book Marketing Tips and Author Success Podcast. This is Penny Sansevieri and Amy Cornell, and we are here. This is such a favorite topic of mine. I mean favorite in that we hear this so much. Good enough and everyone will love it are two fatal things that authors say when we talk to them. Mm-hmm. Amy, do you want to lead this off? Because I know we both have very strong opinions. Again, it feels like we're just using this podcast as our diary, and we really aren't. I promise.
I'm telling you, I think we could sell a lot of merch with, I have really strong opinions about this, because I think a lot of people could resonate. But yeah, truly. So we get this kind of a lot when people are exploring how best to, especially when it comes up, when people are preparing for a new release, where we say, well, it's good enough, or they have this idea that everyone is going to love it anyway. I will say a couple examples of the everyone will love it. A lot of times comes down to an author that say they have a big social following on social media,
right?
Like, oh, I've got X number of followers on Instagram and on Facebook. And we can tell you very honestly that means nothing. Honestly, there's been celebrities, well-known people that have a following that are very much, one in particular, we won't name names, but she was very self-aware. And she said, these are not the people that will be buying my book. So I need to be more creative. And it was brilliant. And it was very smart. I think the other one we get with that a lot is that, again, just personal networks like, oh, I have a really big family, or everybody I work with, or everybody that does the same type of job as me is going to love this book. And it's like, that's a great, I don't know what the right words are. I mean, it's good to have confidence, but you can't make predictions about sales.
Right.
That there's nothing that can absolutely predict sales only because of, oh, well, I know this number of people, or my social media is great. So this is kind of the everyone will love it kind of concept, is that you think you have all these things set up in place, but there's nothing that guarantees that those people are going to actually follow through. So you need to have, if you're insisting that's your plan A, please have a plan B, C, D, E, and F as well for other things you are going to do to rely on sending traffic to your book page and getting some engagement,
Yeah. Yeah, that's absolutely true. And then the other piece, the other side of that coin is the good enough, right? So, I think that there's, at some point you do have to walk away from your book and say, okay, I'm done editing it. I'm done tinkering with it. Like, I get that completely, because I could keep editing my book forever and I would never publish anything. But the good enough piece of it is, and we're going to do a separate conversation on book covers, maybe in the next batch of episodes that we record, but my book cover is good enough. The editing, well, I got one edit pass, and it's good enough. And I'll tell you right now that good enough is, we just recorded a minisode on book reviews. Good enough is what winds up getting you the 1 and 2 star reviews on Amazon. So be careful of that. And again, I realize it is a fine line, but I think if you've done your editing and your cover is solid and things like that, and your research, depending on what you wrote your book about. I mean, I think that you've done all your due diligence, and I think it's a good product. You can get it out there in the world. But the good enough stuff is kind of like, that just always makes me very nervous when I talk to somebody and they say, well, I think it's good enough. It's like,
or it is what it is, or I don't really care about it, or, you know what I mean? Things like that. So like, even, Penny, you say it all the time, everything is your resume.
Everything
is good enough. Okay. For a resume.
Yeah.
Does that, I hope that doesn't make sense to anybody listening, so, but everything you put out there as an author is your resume. So a website that is, that's not current, that talks about your upcoming release that actually released back in December, that kind of stuff, that's not good enough. But it's like, but I have a website. Isn't that good enough? It's like, no, actually, in nowadays, it's absolutely not. And this is not to stress everybody out. But because doing a big kind of cleanup of what you have out there and what your brand is, if you do a nice review of everything and clean everything up going forward, it gets a lot easier, but it is truly good enough is not good enough anymore.
Mm-mm. No, it really isn't. And that's really what we're about in this podcast, is to make sure that to get hopefully listening and up-leveling your success and getting this book out there that's just really outstanding. And, I see books all the time that I just think, oh my gosh, this is just absolutely brilliant. And you could really, really tell. And if I can tell, readers can tell. You can really, really tell when a reader when an author has really invested their time in a book and made it the best that it could possibly be. So we want to thank you again for tuning in to the Book Marketing Tips and Author Success Podcast Minisode. This is Penny Sansbury and Amy Cordell, and we will see you next time. Once again, we appreciate reviews wherever you listen to podcasts. Thank you. Bye-bye.